I had my mic muted, everyone, but welcome back to another episode of the Cronus Group podcast. We are back live for another week, another recording. A lot of stuff that's just going on in the business world, in the sports world, in the racing world, in all the worlds right now. Have we heard back on Artemis at all? Have we seen anything come back?
I think it lands tomorrow, doesn't it? Steve and I
Okay.
talked about Artemis last week. I think it's tomorrow. Steve, do you know?
No, I'm not sure. It's a good point. I saw some video of it, but I didn't see where they're at. I'm sure it was, video from a few days ago. I watched the Easter thing the guy did.
I think they're in space, Steve.
Yeah,
Just
but I don't know whereabouts.
Yeah.
Like if I were to try to put it in my Google Maps, I don't know if I would find
not
them
till
from
Friday.
my location.
Did they?
Friday at 8:00 they come in. 8 p.m. Eastern time. They splash down off the coast of San Diego. Matt, last week we talked about this, and it was crazy. We didn't realize that they don't just come into the atmosphere. They bounce off of it like a stone until they just kind of sink in like a skipping stone. Neither Steve nor I knew that. We're like, man, the size of the balls on these people.
Yeah. And I was editing the podcast, so I listened to it, of course. But the conversation that you guys had about the G's going around the moon, and that it was increased, that you guys thought it would increase, and that when you actually Googled it or researched it with AI, it was like, no, there's no effect.
No. It's just crazy. All the effect is when they come into the atmosphere on Earth. Yeah, just crazy. It's nuts. It's nuts to think about that. It's all math. That people did a bunch of math that says when you take off, you're going to be fine using this much fuel and this much horsepower or whatever it is, and this angle, and you go out this way because you're going to burn everything up if you try to go straight. So you kind of go out the way that you come in, and then you do, again, it's just all math. And if we come around at this speed, you're going to go out. And again, the moon is moving. So we're coming out and we just go like this. And the moon keeps going at its 3,200 feet per 3,200 miles an hour. And the whole thing is just, and again, all of that's got to be perfect. And when you come back, your angle back in has to be perfect, or you'll launch yourself out into space if you come in too straight. Think about the first dudes to ever do this. Think about what they did, not even knowing if this would work, and then come back in. So it's just crazy.
The meme I'm showing right now is how it works in my head right now as well with the math.
Yes. I don't pretend to understand. Again, these guys put their bodies, their lives in the hands of nerds doing math on paper back in the what was the first guy to go to space, right? Gagarin, I think was his name, in the late 50s, early 60s, if memory serves, something like that. A Russian dude.
I thought it was a monkey.
A human, dude. What the hell do we care if we put a monkey? I think there was a dog went up there too. But
they left it.
The human though up there, and then again, you're counting on somebody's pencil and paper or numbers written on a dash on a board that says, "Oh yeah, if you come in at this angle, you're going to be fine." The Earth is moving, the sun is moving, the moon is moving, the galaxy is moving. It's all spinning like this, and 50 years ago, dudes are like, hold up. Now, how far is it?
They're pulling out the maps and they're like,
and how fast is it going?
Orion's belt.
Right. Now how fast is the moon going? And I don't know. We think, how do they even calculate how fast the moon is going? I don't know. They got abacuses out there, and that the sextant, right? I don't know how you use that. How you find your location. I don't know, nothing. It's so beyond anything that's even remotely plausible. We just take it for granted. But to the space thing, I had something I want to talk about. I watched the Star Wars movie Rogue One. I've been a huge fan of Star Wars until 2014 or 15, and all the garbage went woke and it became unwatchable. Somebody told me to watch Rogue One. I guess I had seen it in the theater, was none too impressed with it, but they told me to go back and watch it. So I went back and watched it a couple of nights ago with my wife. And the thing that's interesting watching the Star Wars today, in a way that I never thought about in all of my years. I was 8 years old. I went to the first Star Wars movie multiple times. When I say multiple, I'm talking like 15 or 20. But the thing that's so fascinating is that the whole movie I'm watching, this Rogue One, I'm thinking to myself, they wouldn't be flying that. That thing will be flying itself. They wouldn't be doing that. Droids would be doing that, right? I mean, humanoid drones, that Elon Musk is making that look like us. And there's not going to be a bunch of droids. Obviously, there weren't going to be a bunch of droids that look at all the different ways that the droids look, but literal humanoid drones. And I'm like, or droids. And I'm like, yeah, none of this is going to look, act, feel anything like this. There's not going to be humans going around the moon. We'll be sending humans to the moon, but all of the work will be done by non-humans. And it was just, I enjoyed Star Wars for what it was, but it's a completely different perspective now for me, because I'm like, that ship ain't going to fly. That ship's going to fly by itself. I've seen ships the size of skyscrapers drop from the sky and ignite and slow down and get caught by a couple of toothpicks. I've seen that with my own eyes. So the Star Wars stuff got nothing.
Yeah, you think about it, they're in that capsule heading up, but maybe they do some burns and stuff, but it's not like there's a steering wheel joystick in there. I think you're just kind of along for the ride, be able to make adjustments. But I would say even
true?
now,
is that true? Because I'm going back to like I don't know. We need to look at Matt. Look that up, because I'm just asking Steve, because Apollo 13, right? And they were like, pss, 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 pss.
That's what I'm saying. But I don't even know now if they would.
Do they have that in there now? I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, computers could do it so precise.
Right.
Why would you even bother leaving it to a human to like hold it just like, psst.
Right.
Well,
right.
We're going to
had
Mars.
To line up right.
We're going to be, you do a little too much. Like, well, we're going to beat Elon to Mars after all.
Dude, think about Apollo 13 and what we're talking about how precise these people have to do. And dude was like, I got this. I'll get this. I got to put it straight on the horizon. And it's not like it's, back and forth one way or the other way. I mean, it's just those things are blowing him all over the place. And he's like, that's it. Okay, stop. And if you effed it up, off into space you go.
Yeah. Well, didn't they have to, I'm having to jog my memory. Didn't they have to build like some air scrubber for their air?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just basically had to say, what do we have on this? I guarantee you've got more crap in your car and in your trunk and under your seat than they had available as far as extra, because everything had a specific purpose. What could we break down that's not essential? And then the engineers got the same, if I remember, got the same stuff in the lab there. And like, okay, we got to build it out of this and then tell them how to build it.
Remember, they were like, okay, step one, rip the cover off of the instruction manual. I remember that in the movie. Step one, rip the cover. And then the cover became some filter or stick a bunch of holes in it. I know there was some, there was a bunch of that to it. Did you find out, Matt?
Yeah, so it says that while the spacecraft is highly automated, it is designed for manual piloting as a backup, with astronauts using hand controllers while monitoring systems, particularly during docking or specialized maneuvers.
So I wonder if it's a PlayStation like that Titanic expedition sub used.
Knowing Elon, he probably made some crazy contraption in there. Like, he wanted to make it cool, because that's what he does with all the Tesla cars. That's what he did with the Cybertruck. So it's like he could make a basic steering wheel or some kind of like joystick, but knowing him, he's like, let's make this look like from the Alien ship from the Alien franchise. And it's
isn't, except this one's not Elon. This is NASA doing this one. So
yeah, but with the spacecrafts that he's building and stuff, and that's where I think, even to your point, Jerry, the androids and the droids being able to fly this stuff, I wouldn't bet all my money, but a large sum of it, that those Optimus bots that he's building is exactly like, that's their type of roles in the future. Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's what I mean. That's
the
what I'm saying.
basic
That's what
stuff.
they'll absolutely be doing.
Yeah. So I just want to see if they actually came back and if they saw the Transformers on the dark side of the moon. Because if that's the case, then we know all those movies are true, especially Transformers. I think it was like 2 or 3 with the dark side of the moon and Optimus. I was like, I knew it. I knew it. They were hiding back there the whole time.
Right. The moon is kind of cool too, in that they're going to be mining that moon. I think pretty much most of everything that we need, they have on the moon. And the cool thing is, it's going to be very, very economical because you have this thing called an electromagnetic mass driver. Think about a maglev train, right? These trains. Have y'all ever been on an electric train, a maglev train? They got them all. I don't think they have any here. They got them in Asia. So I've ridden them in China, and 360 kilometers an hour, whatever, 280 mile an hour, whatever it is. But again, it's just magnetic levitation, right? So you don't even really feel like you're going that fast. And so they're going to put these things on the moon, and then they're going to mine the moon using the humanoid robots. And then to send it back, they use a maglev train because it's what the moon is 7 times less gravity than what we have here on Earth. So they literally can get it up to speed, and then so no taking off, no fuel necessarily to do any of those things. And of course, I think once you're pushed out, you just keep speeding up in space, right? Until it gets close enough. And I don't know, then it must have some ability to correct itself and slow it, get into the atmosphere and that sort of thing. But they're talking about throwing it back from the moon. And
that makes sense.
Not using any or not using not using any kind of fuel necessarily to get it back here. And it's just like, it's just not possible, man. It makes sense, but it just doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, they took a play right out of Ricky Bobby's playbook in Talladega Nights. It's called Shake and Bake. And that's how he was able to get around people without actually having to burn more fuel or get faster. It was like, hey, so it's shake and bake time. So that's what they were like, you know what? Let's do a shake and bake around the moon. That's
You're an idiot.
So I guess those I know they'd work by magnetic. I guess it would work in the sense of you put the same sides together, and you know how you're held 2 magnets and you're trying to touch them and you couldn't really get them. The only way you could get them is like maybe at the corners where it was grabbing enough of the opposite pole, but right in the middle you couldn't. It creates that, that you can feel it when you're trying to do it. It won't let you just touch the 2. So I wonder if that's how those mag trains work. I know it's magnetic, where it's the opposite, where it's the same, like a positive in the train and positive on the rail. And if it is, my only thing is, man, what if you're doing that 280 and somebody flips a switch that makes one of them the opposite? I mean, that train's stopping instantaneously, but everything in it's going to be that front control room is going to be really crowded.
It's going to be a problem. At that point.
And when you were mentioning that a guidance system, I was thinking about that. I saw something about that Titan, OceanGate Titan, that collapsed.
Yeah,
I saw a video about some people, they just don't get the pressure. Like, is there any way to get the bodies? And I saw a video about what happened. It was AI generated to the body and it was in a millisecond. They never knew what happened.
It was over. Watch this.
I mean, the crushing of it. Oh, is that
I
live
love
now?
that. I saw that video too, Steve. That was way cool.
Is something about how they fold. They show it in slow motion, but it was so instantaneous they'd never even knew what was happening. And they might have heard maybe a little crack before it gave, and that's it.
And that dude was crazy. He took his son down there, and he's going down essentially in a beer can, and it's just
rich people doing dumb shit. That's what it was.
Right. So this is Alon put this out. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
So check this out. We're watching this video. SpaceX made this. There's the launcher.
Oh, wow.
Again,
okay.
The moon has so much of what we need in giant quantities of it, but it's not going to be humans. It's going to be droids up there doing that. And then that's loaded up. It's going to get it up to speed here. And then it's got all the rocks and gold and whatever the hell else it is that we need. And then it shoots it off into space after it gets to, whatever speed. It's going to have the ability it'll recharge itself in about 15 minutes because it has the direct sunlight.
Oh yeah, no
And
atmosphere.
Earth, here we come.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
And
Look at
given the
this.
physics, it makes sense. And given that he's been able to capture his boosters, I thought of that when they showed the boosters from this one dropping. And do they salvage them? Do they have parachutes on them or anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it gets, at the end. I don't know how it gets back here. I don't know. I don't know anything. I don't
I'm
even
talking
believe.
about the boosters on the Artemis. They drop off those big fuel tanks, give them all the fuel to escape the atmosphere.
Yeah, they're
gravitational.
They're long gone, those things.
That's what I'm saying. They just crash out in the Atlantic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Elon just brings his back.
How crazy is that, though?
Yeah. But I mean, that was my point. If you have that technology to bring back boosters, then you've got, how to make things work like that. But that would be. And you don't have an atmosphere. So any kind of solar stuff would be that. I mean, you wouldn't need all the life support stuff, which is a major part of a lot of these space mission things is, water, food, oxygen, especially oxygen, and you had droids doing it. You don't have to really worry about any of those.
I like how we call them droids.
Yeah. I was just thinking like, that phrase of I would like to be a fly on the wall in those rooms as they're kind of developing those thoughts or in those like crazy moments where it's like that's where they came up with the plan. I would literally have the capacity of a fly's brain realistically in that kind of room with those people that just created that rendering and being able to think through that. That's literally my brain would be the like equivalent of a fly at that point with them in the room, because it's just like, how do you even wrap your head around this and not just make it to where it's like a sci-fi movie and it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this because we've seen it in the movies, and it's like, no, this is actually how we can actually make this happen with this kind of technicality.
To that end, there is a driver for Formula One. And this is what I wanted to talk about today. I don't know.
Okay, just a second, Jerry. When you said driver, I was like, cool, we're going to talk golf because it's Masters weekend.
Yeah.
And I saw a video where they took a driver, like cut one open, one of these high end ones, and it's kind of cool how hollow it is and just some of the stuff in there. I never knew it was inside one. So anyway, but go back to the Formula One driver.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all have seen this, but
this was season 3 of the Drive to Survive.
Can y'all hear that? Does it have sound?
No,
I don't hear sound. You might have to go back, and then when you share your screen, it will ask you to like have a little toggle, and it'll say add audio or share audio.
Hold on.
Yeah, I've watched all of just for our viewers out there that might not see the screen. We're watching a clip from, I think it was season 3 Drive to Survive of the Formula One racers.
So you watched enough to know the actual season, that scene you saw like 5 seconds, or did it say it?
Matt, it didn't give me I don't see that to have sound. So,
okay.
But the thing that's so crazy about this, what I thought was just so crazy, is that they make sure I got the right screen. I don't think I do because I'm an idiot. Let's try this again. I tried to get sound. I don't know why the hell I don't have sound. That sucks.
It should ask you when you go to share your screen, there'll be like a little box that will pop up and it'll say, which screen do you want to share? And then at the bottom, it'll say add audio, and it'll be like a little toggle or share audio for that screen.
So the goal is one day for Matt, you to get up from your mic and walk over to Jerry's mic and show him what he needs to do, and then come back
that's
to
right.
your mic.
As he was climbing out.
Oh, that's why he's shaking his hand, because it's just like
it's just so hot that he can't take his gloves off because he can't see anything. And he said all he remembered was sitting in the little like container that they sit in, and he felt the heat. And then he saw the flames coming up over, but it wasn't inside of his actual little like cockpit where he sits. But then as he was trying to get out, it was so hot that it was melting his hands and he couldn't climb out. So he eventually just had to like suck it up, pull himself up through the flame. And then that's when he didn't realize where he was even at. So then that's when he's starting to climb. And then he realizes, oh, he's behind a barrier. So he has to get up over the barrier. And that's when that was super hot because that's metal. So then he just latches onto that. And that's when he's able to like pull his head out. And because when they are in that suit and in that actual like cockpit area, they have a brace that goes over the top of the neck. And that was stuck. So he was having to push that out, unlock that to then climb up out of the actual like cockpit itself, which is just insane.
The engineers of the car have to answer for something, but the engineers of the suit and that capsule that he was in, yeah, they passed.
So he was in there for 28 seconds, but thanks to decades of incremental safety and advancements in Formula One, he walked away with minor burns to the back of both hands and a sprained ankle. The Halo device, which was introduced in 2018, the driver credited the titanium halo with saving his life. It absorbed the brunt of the impact as the car pierced the guardrail, preventing his head from being struck or decapitated by the shredded metal barrier. Without it, experts agree the outcome would have been fatal. The halo remained largely intact. The survival cell, which is the monocoque, the carbon fiber and Kevlar cockpit tub, stayed remarkably intact, even as the front and rear of the car sheared apart. It protected his body from the direct force of the barrier penetration and kept the main structure around him from collapsing. His Nomex-based overalls, underwear, gloves, socks, and boots were designed to withstand heat up to 1,000 centigrade. The 2020 standard suit gave him critical extra seconds of protection, far beyond the previous 12-second rating. This allowed him to endure the fireball long enough to escape with only light burns. The crash helmet and head and neck support Hans device prevented fatal head neck injuries during the massive deceleration. The 6-point harness kept him secured initially, but was quick to release once the immediate impact forces subsided. He remained conscious, unbuckled his harness, pushed away headrest foam, and climbed out through the halo opening, leaving one shoe behind in the wreckage. Track marshals and the medical team arrived rapidly to assist him. The combination of the technologies created multiple layers of protection that worked together in an unprecedented scenario. The FIA's post-crash investigation confirmed that the survival cell, halo, helmet, Hans, harness, seat, headrest, and fire equipment all performed as designed. He described it being as intact inside the shell and emphasized that modern F1 safety saved him. He was trapped in, like I said, for 27 to 28 seconds. He felt like it was 90 seconds or more due to the heat, smoke, and adrenaline. His racing suit is what survived him. The impact was 67 G deceleration from 119 mile an hour. Car split in half and pierces the barrier. Fire starts immediately. He remained conscious, unbuckled his harness, pushed away the headrest from, like we said. He walks away under his own power. The burns were to both hands, second degree, mainly to the backs, like Matt said. The left hand was more severely affected than the right. He mentioned pain in his left index finger and thumb with concerns about potential loss of mobility. He later had a skin graft on the left hand in 2021. The burns occurred despite fireproof gloves and a suit. The extreme heat transferred through, especially when he grabbed parts of the car or the halo to pull himself out. His visor also melted. His left foot was initially trapped due to damage in the survival cell cockpit. He freed it by yanking his leg hard, leaving his racing boot behind in the wreckage. Some reports mention minor burns or swelling to the ankles, feet, but nothing serious, no fractures. General soreness, inflammation, and swelling, especially in the hands. No broken bones, fractures, concussion, internal injuries, no major trauma to the head, neck, chest, or spine. He remained fully conscious throughout and, like we said, was able to unbuckle and climb out. Spent 3 nights in the hospital for burns. Bandages were removed, posted photos of the raw blistered skin, missed the final 2 races of the 2020 season, and he had the skin surgery in 2021. That is insane.
Yeah, so I was looking up with that suit, you said it's 1,000 degrees centigrade proof. It said when a Formula One fuel burns in open air during a crash, the temperatures are generally lower than internal Buston peak, but still high enough to be lethal. Average flame temperature is about, 1,000 degrees centigrade is 1,800 Fahrenheit for us non-metric 1800. Peak localized heat can reach up to 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit if the fuel's pressurized, spraying out of a broken line and mixed with oxygen. And I'd say, given the way those engines are, it was probably under pressure in there spraying. That's why those flames weren't just like fire burning. They look like a torch. And that'd be that. So when you have that spraying out, mixing with the oxygen in there. So you see why those suits have to be, so high, as far as their rating of that.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Those racers, or the drivers, if you watch all the seasons, which I have, the reason that they were so concerned is because they actually, that once you find a driver and that driver is staying around for like a 2-3 year contract, that's who you travel with. Even if it's your opponent, it becomes like a brother, because it's, even if you don't like them, you know them because you're seeing them every other weekend for the full year and then into the off season as well. And that's where like someone like him, Grosjean, he is a seasoned driver, a veteran driver. And that's where, like, after that, I think he ended up not actually coming back after that. I think he tried to do like a race here or there, but then he was done because he was like, after that, it's just like, I know this is like some sign in the universe saying I should not continue to keep doing this, because he was going to try to do another year or two, I remember, in the Formula One. So, but he was significantly older than a lot of the other drivers, because this year or last year, that actually, so those cars and the speed they travel with, the average age, I think it was last year for the drivers, was between 18 and 21 years old.
And that might have something to do with the degree of reflex that you have, that you need. I've seen the steering wheel, which is incredible. It's all these buttons and levers that you're doing, controlling everything on there. But their reflexes, we've seen the video of where they were racing in the tunnel and this car was almost stalling. And this guy comes up on a blind curve and just in a split second gets around him. But the reaction speed, of course, you got the videos where you got NFL guys, catching a ball, doing something, trying to catch it. And then a Formula One guys, reactions with his hands. And it's half the time just doop. And they don't know when it's being released. It's pretty cool, the reaction. So maybe as you get older, reflexes slow down a little bit. Might be also why there's such a younger demographic in there, because you'd think experience would let you be a better driver older, but that kind of racing, that quick moves, does require a great deal of reflex speed.
Yeah, and that was why I like the Formula One movie, which brought a lot of attention to Formula One, especially here in America, with Brad Pitt being so old. That's not seen in Formula One, having someone that old driving amongst all these other young drivers. And when he got hurt, that's a more realistic expectation to see in a movie, especially on the Hollywood side. That is a real effect in Formula One. And so it's like, if you have those kind of pains, you have those surgeries, if you've broken stuff, the likeliness of you like not ending well in Formula One goes up significantly because of the pressure, the constant motion on your head, on your neck, on your back, that if you have any of those problems, like, it's just going to make it worse to where you can't ever drive or maybe even run a marathon or run any kind of race ever again, because it takes such a beating on your body.
The thing that surprises me is, because I used to follow NASCAR back in the 90s up to right around 2000, early 2000, when it was more watchable. But that was Ernie Irvan. He was in a practice and came around a turn and lost control and went straight on into a wall. And it didn't kill him. They thought it was going to. He had some brain injury. But the big thing is deceleration. Even though all that's designed to stay intact and all that, you still have a human body going from, what was it, 160, 140, 160 miles an hour to zero in just a matter of feet. And even though everything's locked in, the head's locked in, the brain still moves. The internal organs still move, and that, it's just everything sloshes forward. So it's amazing that he didn't have it, because that's one of the things I said that got Earnhardt was he didn't have that. They had the device out, but he didn't want to use one. He's old school. And because when he wrecked, it didn't look like he really hit that hard. Nothing like this. But the way his head whipped forward, I think it separated his brainstem, the way it hit. But even so, Ernie's had the head device on, but it's how his brain just sloshed forward in a skull. So it's amazing. I don't know if there's more technology on this. Maybe it absorbs it, like you were saying, where it absorbs the impact and lessens on there. But still, it's a human body going from that speed to zero that quick.
Yeah, I just, all of that just blew me away when I saw that video. Let's pivot for a second. Something else I want to talk about that I had, which was the number of businesses that are for sale out there today. And that I think that it is going to be a golden time here over the next 4 or 5 years to buy businesses. They're literally calling it the silver tsunami. And the thought process is fairly straightforward when we talk about it. Anybody looking to buy a business over the next 5, 6, 8 years, I think are going to be just some of the greatest opportunities probably in history. And it's pretty simple because there's a massive group of business owners, mostly baby boomers, but some younger than that are simply aging out. I think the number was 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 every day in the United States. And roughly half of all privately owned businesses are owned by baby boomers. So the studies, we're talking millions of businesses that'll change hands over the next decade. And the interesting thing is a large percentage of those, I would be in that group, have no succession plan. I never even thought about it. And so this is not something that is being thought about. This is something that is not being anticipated. This is going on right now. So we're talking about, real businesses that have revenue and have customers and employees, and, all of the work is set up. You just go pay for it. So I think there's going to be a big opportunity. And I say this all of the time to business owners and entrepreneurs. There is, most entrepreneurs are just running their business. So, these guys, if they're going to sell their business, they may not have a broker or financials or an exit strategy, or they've got this emotional attachment to it, which can make the deals, more difficult to find necessarily because they don't like working with brokers. But my point is, for the next couple of, let's say the next 10 years, and certainly over the next 2 decades, but just in the next 5 to 10 years, I think the opportunity for anybody trending towards wanting to own a business certainly should be looking to buy a business rather than grow one, just because there is right now and going to be a huge number of businesses on the market for sale.
Yeah, I've seen that, the silver tsunami thing, and they're talking about literally it's a transfer of wealth with the people that'll be, selling their business and buying it. And coming from me, when I'd first heard about it just a few years ago, I started getting out because you see a proliferation now of these, how to buy a business type gurus telling you how you can buy a business and, just get it, keep the, the principal owner on for a year or two, and you just work 4 or 5 hours a week on it, just checking in and make sure everything's going. Obviously, we've delved into, the fallacy involved in that if you're going to take it over. But from my perspective, coming from a W-2 background, I always thought when something was for sale, it's because it was worn out, broken. You sell your car, you sell a washing machine, you sell anything you sell for the most part. And from my world, was because it had no use, no value to you. It was worn out. See, if somebody else needed a lower price point on a car, you want to buy this car for $3,000 that I paid 18 for it. So when I first would hear about businesses being for sale, I was under the impression like, well, there's something wrong with the business because why would you sell it? And to your point, exactly, now we're hitting where boomers are hitting retirement age. You got people that just want to cash out. They want to be able to, enjoy some years. They've spent 20, 30 years building this business. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor, so to speak, kind of cash out, go watch the Masters. Wouldn't be a bad plan, but, among many other things to go do. And so it was just kind of new to me and thinking like a lot of them are very well revenue generating businesses, profitable. They just don't want to do them anymore. And so that was new to me coming from my perspective. Anybody else listening realize they just want to pivot out of it. Doesn't mean they're losing money, not going out of business. So that was kind of a shift I had to make in my mind coming from my background, that they just want to do it. And you could buy it. I'm making it super simplistic, but buy it, don't screw it up, and just kind of keep it going, expand. Maybe you could even add to it. Maybe if it's somebody, like you said, that didn't have the financial, all that kind of stuff. And you can make even improvements on it to increase the value. Kind of like when you buy an apartment complex or a house, just keep it simple. And it's, it's okay shape, but then you renovate it, do some more stuff to it, add to it, create more value in it, initially just in upgrades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
hang on one second, Matt, just to finish up on what Steve said, because that was good what he said. You don't need a new idea to run a business or to start your business, right? You find one that's existing, got one of these guys that want out. You just need to run the business better than they did. And you would be surprised. I've said this all the time, that there is 3 to 5 points of margin in almost any 7-figure business out there that is being left behind simply because the owners are inside of the business, not outside of it. So even a couple of points of margin, you're talking about 20 G's a year on $1 million. It is not insignificant money. So if a business has been around for 40 years, you could say to yourself, well, there's a good chance this guy, he's got this thing nailed. He's got this thing dialed. There's no additional money to get out of it. And it's just not true. He's probably not chasing after things that he should be able to. He probably isn't as hungry as a young guy would be coming in. He probably doesn't have any debt, so he doesn't have a bunch of pressure, coming down on his shoulders. There's a myriad of reasons why that business would not be ran as well as it could be, that have nothing to do with the competency of its current owner, and have everything to do with these other ancillary things relative to even how much he wants to get out of bed and come in after having done it for 40 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jerry, for someone like me being younger, and this has definitely been presented a lot on social media, like Steve was saying, of buying a business and making a lot of money and putting in like good work and building something. What is that risk, risk reward for starting a business compared to acquiring a business like this and buying a business? Like, what is that difference?
That's a great question. The risk is gigantic to start a business, right? We all know that. Everyone's heard about, 70%, 80% failure rates in the first couple of years. Don't start a restaurant business. Don't start a restaurant because you're just going to get crushed. Whatever you do, don't shop. Don't start a Shopify store or one of those idiotic businesses, because they're 99% failure rate. They're not even really businesses, but the failure rate for a new business is significant. It is really, really high. Buying a business, an existing business with a history that you can look at, with a customer base, with operations, with a location, with infrastructure, with assets, things of that nature. Now you've got something more tangible, and so the risk is significantly lower. Now you could screw it up and it'll crater on you fairly quickly, but it's the difference between, having a really good running start and starting from scratch. You're way, way, way ahead of the game, particularly if something's been around 15, 20, 30 years. You know what you're buying when you do that. And if there are ways to innovate, like I talked about, the risk is relatively low. It's not zero and it's not insignificant, but it's nothing like it's nothing like starting from scratch. So I think that given the environment that we're in now, people looking to start a business or become entrepreneurs should not be saying to themselves that they need to start something. They should be saying to themselves they should probably be buying something. Because again, if you were thinking about starting a restaurant, go buy a restaurant. If you want to piss money down a hole running a restaurant, you're certainly capable of doing that quickly as a startup. But imagine if somebody's already done all the hard work for you, and now is the food that you're bringing to the table. I saw here in Nashville, I saw a video just the other day, a couple of young guys bought Steve, what's that restaurant we go to over there by the airport? It's a breakfast place. Oh man. Over there by Opryland, Bob Evans.
Bob Evans,
Figured it
yeah.
out for myself. Bob Evans, and he had not a Bob Evans. What's the other one here in the South, Steve? They closed a bunch of them over. What's that?
It's not Cracker Barrel, is it?
No, they closed a bunch of them over COVID, and they had a buffet in there. God, they're really good. There's one down there. What's that?
Shoney's?
Yeah, Shoney's. So they bought a closed Shoney's, which is this restaurant they're all over the South. There was more of them before COVID. And they turned it into, but they bought the existing building with all of the infrastructure, all of the booths, everything, and they turned it into a bar, right, with really good food. So I don't know, a pub, I suppose you would call it, and more of a sports bar base, and they had an Italian kind of feel to it and really good food and all that. And they're doing very well now, but they bought a restaurant that is essentially had everything you needed into it. It was already set up. And so they got, again, a head start as opposed to having to locate a facility, having to outfit the facility. Many times when somebody closes down, like restaurants do all of the time, you can get all of their stuff for 10 cents on the dollar because they're losing everything.
Liquidating.
So the person who's leasing the building is going to be happy to lease it to you because this guy can't pay. He just lost his business. All of the equipment in the kitchen, again, it's all yours, and you're picking it up for pennies relative to what you could buy it for because the guy's already taken a loss on everything he has. So that goes not only for restaurants, for all sorts of other businesses. To answer your question directly, Matt, it just increases whether you buy an operating company or you buy someplace like a Shoney's and then you turn it into your own sports bar. You're giving it an advantage that you don't have when you start from scratch, which is why the businesses that start from scratch fail at the rate that they do.
Yeah. I was going to say there's, I know for businesses out there, especially if it's like a brick and mortar, being able to like turn it around and really run it how it's supposed to run could be profitable and could be a little bit less risk upfront than trying to like lay the foundation and build the building yourself. When it comes to service bases, like kind of like what we do working with founders and small business owners, would you ever even think about acquiring something like a chapter or a group that is already established? And if they were to list it for sale, would that even be like a relative option to buy that business compared to buying like a brick and mortar or an actual established business?
So that's a good question. Again, because that's important. You want to concentrate on service companies or trade companies or a transportation company, these kind of unsexy, get your fingernails dirty kind of businesses. When you start talking about consulting firms and things of that nature, you're buying somebody else's book of business that they've built based on their reputation, based on their personality. So you better be really sure when you do that your personality and your knowledge is going to be valuable to that customer base. If they're buying gas from you, they're going to come buy more gas from you. And unless you pour the gas on their car and light their car on fire, or you raise the price $1 compared to what it is across the street, they're going to keep buying gas from you. But if they're taking advice from you, and that advice, the boomer's ready to bag out of his consulting business, to your point, that is a human-based personality business, and that has a whole new set of metrics that you'd better spend a lot of time making sure that you can fulfill for his customer base. Because while you buy his business and you pay for it, nothing stops that company from going, hey, Matt's a dick, I don't want to work with him.
Yeah, I was looking up with the silver tsunami. Their experts estimate that over 10 trillion in business assets will change hands by 2030. And one thing it brought up a good point, Jerry, and you could elaborate on this, that a lot of business owners, a lot of businesses are owned by what they'd call owner dependency, where the business is dependent on the actual owner of the business for the customers and everything like that. So what would you want to look for in a situation like that, or avoid maybe, where it seems like the owner is the key to the business, owner leaves, the business starts to really suffer? Say like the owner couldn't, if the owner disappeared for 10 days, took a vacation, could the business still run itself, or is it dependent on them being there? What's that look like, and what to avoid possibly in those?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the problem is when you buy a business. So in a perfect world, you want to buy a well-run business, and a very well-run business is one that allows the owner to not have to be there every day. That doesn't mean the owner is disconnected, but he can go to his ranch for 10 days if he wants to. He can go to his ranch for 5 days and hang out if he wants to, right? That doesn't mean that owner isn't taking phone calls and doing all of those things. Those jobs for any company almost don't exist. If they do, if I was looking to buy a business and the owner I'm buying from says, I spend no time here, I like it in the south of France, the wife and I spend all of our time down here, I'm looking at a business that's going to have significant opportunity going forward, because no one is going to run your business like you are. So if you're 30 and you're talking to a 60-year-old and the 60-year-old talks like that, keep digging, because that is the business that you want, because you know that that is a business that's not being paid attention to like it should, i.e. there is margin in the existing business, or there is margin by increasing the top line revenue, thereby increasing the bottom line profit. So no matter what they tell you, I got a great manager. The guy's been with me for 30 years. No one looks at your business like you do. And so other than if you're a guy that's in there for 30 or 40 years and it's time to retire. So most people would probably give the advice, Steve, that you want to avoid that. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're paying, when you buy a business, you're paying for the business the size that it is right now. And there's some sort of discount you're trying to work into that, but typically it's amount of cash that the thing throws off, and you put a multiplier on that, and whatever assets that you have to buy outside of that inventory or things like that, and you come up with a number, and that's what you're going to buy it for. And typically inventories are discounted a little bit if they haven't been turning over, they're older than a few months, things of that nature. But generally, you guys get it. You're paying for what that business generates today, plus its inventory, any other assets you might buy, vehicles and things of that nature, real estate that comes with it, things of that nature. But let's just concentrate on, let's say the guy's got a lease and no vehicles, and he just has income that comes in from revenue from customers. But he has his employees take care of it all because him and the wife spend all their time in Colorado. That's exactly what you're looking for, because the reality is not only do you take them out, and whatever money they're taking out of the system, which they're going to get paid for because those are all add backs that they get. But now you've got a baseline. Let's say it brings in $100,000 a month and it makes $10,000. You got a company making $10,000 in net profit a month with an owner that has been absent, leaving it to his employees. Now, those employees could be the best employees in the world, but I'm telling you, they're not going to be you. They're not going to be Matt. They're not going to be me stepping in and saying, okay, this is my brand new business. I have to find every penny to make sure that I can make money. I need to invest where it's appropriate because I'm in this for the next 30 years, not looking to get out in the next 2 years. And then how do I grow my sales while still maintaining that margin? So I would put to you that you buy a company doing $100,000 a month, there's going to be 2 or 3 points of margin in that business. That's $3,000 every month, right? It's $36,000 a year that you found simply by buying it and then paying attention, because that's the cost that a 30, 40-year owner is just willing to put up with because he doesn't want to fight for it anymore. I'm generalizing, but this is more the case than not. Then on top of that, he's not really put any effort. You're in there at 6 a.m, you're leaving at 8 o'clock at night, and you're doing nothing but trying to sell this thing all day long. So all of a sudden you go from $100,000 a month to $120,000 a month, right? To $200,000 a month. And now you've doubled the size of the business, right? Whatever number you want to put on it, as long as you're on top of it, now you take all of the money that the business that you bought was making and you pay the owner, and everything that you make on top of that existing infrastructure is your money to keep. You can either throw it at the debt and get rid of the owner altogether and pay him early, or right, you just continue to make your payments, but now you're making double the amount of money he was because you doubled the sales. Or more importantly, you don't necessarily have to double the sales, but let's say you add 50 grand a month, you're probably making double what he was at 150,000, double what he was at 100 grand, because you get to take economies of scale into it. That is, the foundation is already built. And so you add business into that. The margin, if you do this correctly, is going to be bigger on the next 50 grand than it is on the first 100 grand.
Yeah. And with that, because you've seen it in the housing, you see it in the housing right now. Uh, Share your perspective, because I know you pay close attention to stuff like this. Um, how long do you think it is? Because it is, I don't say low hanging fruit, but it's there. It's going to be there for the taking. How much do you see, like now, and like I said earlier, you see it in the housing market. How long do you think it is, or has it already happened? Do you think private equity firms are going to start doing just like they've done with housing, going in and buying a lot of the stuff up that they say, hey, we could do this? Do you see that same thing that you're seeing in the housing market, where these big, private equity firms are buying up massive amounts of properties?
Yes,
Do you see that transferring into the business world as well?
yes, it already has. Like
Yes.
accounting firms are disappearing. They're buying up accounting firms because they see, the big firms see that AI is coming. And so they're buying margin by buying up all of these accounting firms, little ones and big ones, local ones and larger, multi-unit ones and multi-office ones, because they see what's coming with AI. And so as a hedge to AI and the automation of the accounting space, you see these things, these roll-ups already taking place, Steve, but not necessarily private equities doing that. The big boys, the big accounting companies are doing that. Some private equity in other businesses like that are doing it then to sell to the big players in the market. But if, let's say that becomes a bigger thing, again, a trade company still has to go out. The HVAC guy still has to go out and install the HVAC. And so you have fixed costs inside of that. And having done some research like I did for Jake and you on HVAC companies a couple of months ago, and knowing what I know about HVAC and building generally, I can tell you that there's always room for competition. The bigger the company, the harder it is to compete. The bigger the company, the easier it is to compete against them, because they have overhead that you don't have in businesses that are local like that. So it's hard to compete with a national builder building the same thing, because the builder has economies of scale that you don't have. And so it'll take you longer to develop the lots, and it'll take you longer to build the houses if you're doing it at a smaller level, these national builders. But the competition is, would you rather live in a semi-custom home for relatively the same price, built by a smaller builder that cares a whole bunch more, or one of these cookie cutter houses that the little NARs of the world, nothing wrong with their houses, but they are what they are? It leaves room for competition that is not otherwise there at any kind of scale, simply because the big boys have the economies of scale to deal with the regulations and the nightmare and the carry. Real estate development and real estate home building really comes down to the carry. You buy the land, how soon can you get the land to development? You get the land developed, how soon then can you get the houses built? You get the houses built, how soon can you build the houses? But there is a interest carry for that money. Either it is via publicly traded companies, but it's still companies, investors are looking for a return, or it's a hard money loan, or it's a bank loan on that property that every month clicks away waiting for that. And that's a carry cost that are very significant, particularly as it has gotten more and more complicated to, say, develop, to use your point, Steve, to develop land. So the big boys have free money, right? Because they get public money. And so largely they're using their money from their investors. The smaller developers, the smaller builders have to use bank money. So when there are a bunch of regulations, it can make it a lot harder. But at a 1 or 2 or 3 build or 5 build at a time type of development, no big builder can compete with a small builder in the world. And the same thing is true for HVAC companies or electricians or any of that. To the right guy, properly motivated, in a heartbeat, I would go buy a 30, 40-year-old electrical company or an HVAC company that's ran by a guy whose son doesn't want to buy it, and he just wants out because it's got everything you need. And let the big boys do what they're going to be, but they're always going to be more expensive, because this is where their economies of scale turn on them, because their overhead is so much more significant. They've got the big buildings. They've got all of the people in the office. You got your wife at home doing the QuickBooks. Right? What's your overhead? The truck out front, whatever employees you have, the lease on your building. But again, your price point comes down significantly. So then it comes down to how you sell yourself. Well, who in their right mind wouldn't who in their right mind would not take you or me or Matt necessarily over that big corporate place, even though the guy coming and delivering it might be every bit as talented as you are. You sell yourself correctly, you put yourself way ahead, I think, against competing against guys like that. But those dudes are powerful. So when they want to, they can crush the market. But again, your margin isn't what their margin is. So crush the market might be you just live for a while. You'll make money, right? But you just got to get your way through it. So I think that makes sense. I think that answers the question that you're asking me, which is those things are already happening. But I think that the small entrepreneur will always have an advantage over the big boys when it comes to the direct sales of one product to one person.
Mm-hmm.
1 million products to 1 million people, the big companies have the advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude,
Well,
I was just writing this stuff down because I honestly think, Jerry, with your expertise and your knowledge, we need to make this as a course in our school community. And because you'll give them the real, not what's going to be publicly put all over social media of like how easy it is to buy and sell a business, why you should be buying a business. You'll give them the down and dirty version, but also the realistic expectation, and that there is upside for someone that is just an entrepreneur to be able to make it in this world with that kind of business. But the kind of mindset, the kind of not even motivation that you get externally, but internal motivation to just keep pushing and to actually make that business worthwhile, that right there is a course in itself that I know a lot of people, especially my age, that are looking at potentially buying businesses would need to hear before actually going in and trying to do some kind of acquisition of buying a business themselves.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that would be good. There's a lot to know there. And again, from the acquisition perspective, you could go on about buying these businesses, and there's all kind of pricing inefficiencies if you know what you're looking at. And there's all sorts of unique ways to create deal structures that don't involve, I need 30% down and I got to have a big bank loan and all of that. And, even from a broker perspective, there's all sorts of off-market opportunities to people who are willing to go look for them. That is markets that or deals that aren't being advertised right now. They're not listed. So there's all kinds of ways to skin this cat, as they say, that have nothing to do with what people would generally understand to be, a car costs this much. I need to get a loan for that amount. I need to put 20% down, and then I get the best interest rate. It's not how it works in the business world. So
yeah,
it can work like that. It certainly can, but that's not, again, that's a part of it. Not it.
Yeah. And that's why I think coming from you, Jerry, would be very beneficial for people to hear, because we're not trying to turn this buying a business into a service or into a business itself. And we're trying to sell people on like the idea of how easy it is. And here's here's my manual and my playbook, and you can come to this webinar and we're going to teach you how to buy a business. No. We're not taking that approach. It's just like, hey, here is common experience and knowledge from Jerry, who's actually done this, and will give you what it really is. We're not trying to sell you something. We're trying to sell you the knowledge to then be able to take it on your own and run with it as you please. But we're not trying to make a quick buck just by showing you how to buy a business in 5 easy steps, because it ain't
this is
way.
And this is where most people might go find a broker. And I've always been pretty negative about brokers, and I'll continue to be pretty negative about brokers, but there are good brokers out there. But you got to remember that everything, the key to Warren Buffett's success is buying a business, buying a stock that is mispriced. And if he can buy that stock mispriced, then he's going to make more money on the stock. So how does he buy it when it's unnaturally low, or it's too low than what it should be, than the value of the business? And so the reality is that most businesses don't go to the highest bidders. Many times owners, particularly older guys, they want somebody they can trust. We had a guy on the podcast I don't know, last year, I don't remember his name, right, who had this exact example, right, that they want somebody they think is going to take care of the business. They want to know that you got them 2 kids at home and you're going to come in here and you're going to do this with the business, and they're going to want to work with you, but to make that deal happen that they wouldn't otherwise if it was, say, a broker in it. And then the problem with brokers also is that brokers want deals. So deals can lend themselves to you not getting the best price possible to buy that business because, again, you're getting paid on a commission. So a $600,000 deal is better than a $500,000 deal. But what if you could get it at $500,000? See? Well, that means that the guy working on a 10% commission is getting $10,000 less. So it is not a matter of I've got the wherewithal, I want to go do it, find a broker. Sorry, that ain't reality. Now, brokers are going to hate this and they're going to push back, but I bought and sold a dozen businesses over the last 30 years. I've interacted with more brokers than I know what to do with. There are good brokers, but just like real estate brokers, I think they are a net negative, not a net positive. And that comes from I have the world's greatest real estate broker, in my estimation, in John Taylor. So I know there are good real estate brokers. But again, the reality is that I don't think they're necessarily needed. They want to talk about that it is what they bring to the table to make sure that the deal gets done. That's true, because somebody looking to buy a business from the outside won't necessarily know what it is he or she is looking for. But at the same time, if you pay $100,000 more, $50,000 more for something you could have got for $25,000 less, that's what you should be doing. And the reality is, can you find that broker that'll work that way for you?
Mm-hmm. Not want their cut. Yeah.
Right.
They're out there. That's another sort area of due diligence that you have to do.
Right. Find somebody like me that's bought, and I don't have a broker business, so I'll say this, but find somebody like me that knows what they're looking at, that knows what a business looks like, to know what the fundamentals of a business look like. They can read a P&L, they can read a balance sheet, that have some concept of assets and what the values of those are, how money works, how financing works, how to put deals together, what that owner might be looking at versus what you think it has to get done, who can have a conversation, right? Who has some sort of a personality, is able to interpret for you what it is that you're looking at, that the businesses are giving you, showing you the highs and the lows, the good and the bad, what the risk might be versus the reward, all of those things. It's complicated and it takes a lot of knowledge to be able to do it, but those people are out there. They absolutely are.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on this episode. If you're listening to this and you're wondering on how to actually bridge the gap between insight and action, you need to be part of the Forge. It's our school ecosystem, a community of achievers focused on optimizing business, health, and high-performance living. Now, for the founders listening who are doing $1 million or more, you know that your biggest bottleneck isn't more hard work. It's the lack of outside perspective. That's exactly why we've built the Kronos Peer Advisory cohorts. We bring you into the trenches with other founders to pressure test your strategy, so you'll stop making $100,000 mistakes in a vacuum. So check the links below to join the Forge or book a discovery call for our next cohort, and we'll see you on the inside. And remember, opportunities everywhere. You got to go get them.